Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 257. Without any delay, start explanation. A total of 8 golden dragons arose this time. The golden dragons arose with the blue-silver emperor vines akin to a myriad of stars surrounding the moon. The golden dragon source to the heaven had just exploded with a loud bang and transformed into an airflow. The violent energy that shocked the competition arena set off a rushing gale. The 8 golden dragons flew off in all directions. Tang Huanyun suddenly roared in rage to unleash the golden dragon roar. A massive golden dragon head that was 3 times bigger than the golden dragon source to the heaven appeared valiantly. The golden dragon head was about 2 meters tall initially but grew to 4 meters following the infusion of countless blue-silver emperor vines. The terrifying sound wave shook the entire competition arena violently. Tang Huanyun did not realize that he had unleashed the golden dragon roar toward Long Yuxue in the distance. They were 100 meters apart, but Long Yuxue could feel the gush of incomparably hot aura blowing against her face furiously. The terrifying sound wave and spiritual assault together with the purple electric current unleashed from the giant dragon's eyes caused her mind to go blank. Her body quivered once before she tumbled to the ground. In the next moment, her virtual body burst into pieces before she completely vanished from the competition stage. The golden dragon roar was at its peak now. Tang Huanyun's long, continuous practice with his spear at the center of the competition stage previously had enabled him to channel the powerful aura produced from the fusion of his martial soul and bloodline power into the golden dragon roar. The entire space was shaken from the roar earlier. Long Yuxue was caught off guard such that she did not even have the chance to react to the situation before she left the competition arena. If it had happened outside, her battle armor would protect her body when set off by a stress response. In a simulated world, the battle armor would not appear without her initiating the deployment. Victory, little Tang! Tang Huanyun was still excited from the battle, yet he was transferred out again in the next moment. I've won. He looked at the golden dragon spear in his hand as his memories flashed back in his mind. He recalled the scene where Long Yuxue's body exploded when he had directed the golden dragon roar into the distance at the final moment. Oh no! Tang Huanyun logged out from the battle network and exited the Star Do cabin quickly. He changed his attire at once before he ran outside. He had never died in the simulated battle network before. So, he was not sure how it felt to die in this place and whether it would bring about profound feelings similar to the Spirit Ascension platform. There was no doubt that Long Yuxue would experience agonizing pain when she was blasted into pieces earlier. He was worried for Long Yuxue's health if the attack was not attenuated by the network. Thus, he left the living quarters in a hurry and dashed straight in the direction of the army's rest area. The snow was being blown into the air wherever he passed such that everyone cast a look at him. Within a few minutes, he had dashed into the army's rest area where the Star Do cabins were located. The place was already packed to the brink with a large crowd gathering on the outside as well. Tang Huanyun was about to squeeze his way in when he was immediately stopped. What are you doing? Jumping the queue? Don't you have any ethics? A tall man with a huge physique blocked the path in front of Tang Huanyun. Tang Huanyun was so anxious at present. He felt as if he had returned to Shrek Academy. Subconsciously, he grabbed the person's shoulder and tossed him away. He was at least 100 kilograms, yet he was akin to a blade of grass in Tang Huanyun's grasp. The rest area, which was bustling just a while ago, quieted down. No one dared stop Tang Huanyun from squeezing his way in. He pushed through the crowd, and in a short while he was on the inside. At first glance, he found Long Yuxue. Long Yuxue's face looked pale as she was walking out from the inside. The Star Do cabin came with an attached dressing room which would be disinfected before a user entered it. Are you okay? Tang Huanyun took a step forward and held her shoulder in an attempt to sense whether her blood essence fluctuation was disturbed. Long Yuxue was startled when Tang Huanyun held her shoulders. She looked up to find that it was Tang Huanyun. Although she was surprised, she felt the warmth in her heart at the same time. The rage in her heart was gone. She shook her head gently. I'm fine. Tang Huanyun was relieved. Did it hurt when you were injured in the simulation cabin? Does one suffer the same agonizing pain when one dies in the simulation, just like the Spirit Pagoda's Spirit Ascension platform? Long Yuxue shook her head. How can the federal government ever produce something as perfect as the Spirit Pagoda? The pain sensation is lowered to 20%, so there's no danger. However, it's still quite painful for me. You're a scoundrel. Are you even human for treating me so? Long Yuxue suddenly sensed that the surrounding ambience felt different at this point. She raised her head subconsciously and looked up at her surroundings. She found a group of people staring at her in bewilderment. There were hundreds of people queuing, yet every single person's gaze was fixated on them at present. A number were staring in bewilderment while a few had their mouths agape in surprise. Yet, others had peculiar expressions on their faces. What's going on? What are you all looking at? Said Long Yuxue shyly, her charming face blushing scarlet. Zhang Huanyun was in a bad mood at present. He had been feeling rather cheerful initially. He had personally tried out the Star Do battle network developed by the Federation. He had heard of the battle network from the report by the Scientific Research Department when he attended a meeting in the Federation's capital, Mingju City. At the same time, he had given it a go and found the simulation quite impressive. As compared to the simulation devices in the past, the Federation had not only developed artificial intelligence which was included in the network, but more importantly, it was user-friendly as well. Even lay people could use it. It was particularly helpful in elevating the caliber of the army. As the Federation's general and current regimental commander of the Blood God Army, he held a prestigious status in the army. The Blood God Army's influence was somewhat alike Shrek Academy's influence in the Soul Master's world. A number of important personnel in the army were the military officers promoted after 10 years of service in the Blood God Army. Thus, his position amongst the military superiors was absolutely distinguished as the Blood God Army's regimental commander. 30 Star Do cabins were provided for everyone's use regardless of military rank, but one must join the queue to wait for one's turn. The contestants were given priority to use the cabins according to the competition schedule. These rules were set by the regimental commander. Being the authority on the rules, he knew very well how to boost the morale of his subordinates. Hence, he showed up today to participate in the use of the Star Do cabins as well. Actually, he already had one of those cabins in his office. He chatted with the Blood God Army's officers and men as he joined the queue. He inquired about how they felt when they were engaged in the Abyssal Tide earlier. He acted friendly with his men and was in a jovial mood. Just when he was feeling rather good for himself, a second lieutenant suddenly charged into the place like a hot-headed bull and began squeezing his way until he reached the end of the queue. The youth was rather strong as he pushed through a number of people who did not manage to stop him. As the regimental commander, he thought he could use his body to block the second lieutenant's path in jest. As he was about to inquire why the youth who was in such a hurry, that he was breaking the rules, he had not expected the young scoundrel to grab his shoulders and toss him aside without even uttering a single word. Being a rank 98 titled Oluor and a full-word battle armor master, who was one of the few people at the peak of the world, Zhang Huanyun had not expected to end up in such an embarrassing situation. The youth had acted too rashly. Coupled with his own lack of preparation for the situation, Zhang Huanyun had never expected that a second lieutenant would attack him. He took a beating and was immediately tossed outside. However, the youth acted with a sense of propriety. He withheld his strength so Zhang Huanyun was not seriously injured despite falling on the ground. Nonetheless, as the regimental commander and the highest commanding officer of the entire army, how could Zhang Huanyun be in a good mood when he was tossed out by a second lieutenant under the keen eyes of the watching crowd? At this moment, the general with 3 stars pinned on his shoulders had his arms akimbo as he watched a pair of youngsters showing great concern for each other. It suddenly struck him that he recognized the young maiden. Was she not his second-in-command, Long Qianwu's daughter? Out of the blue, Long Yuxue also noticed the regimental commander's presence. She could not help covering her mouth with her hands. Zhang Huanyun was not present earlier when she came, so she had not expected to meet him. Senior officer. She stood at attention and saluted. Tang Wulin was startled by Long Yushue's sudden action. He hastily loosened his grip on her shoulders as he turned around and looked surprised. Wow, a 3-star general just like Blood One. He had a hunch about the person's identity even if it was just a wild guess. He stood at attention and saluted immediately following Long Yuxue. However, an ominous foreboding arose in Tang Wulin's heart as he was saluting. He suddenly recalled something at present. Besides, he felt that this person was rather familiar. Zhang Huanyun raised his brows and, with his attention on Tang Wulin, hollered, "Your name?" Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin stood at attention with his gaze fixed and a stoic expression, acting as if he was not the one who tossed aside Zhang Huanyun earlier. Zhang Huanyun was infuriated by this youth. Damn! How could he pretend he had nothing to do with tossing Zhang Huanyun aside earlier? In any case, the youth had a pleasant demeanor about him. Are you not aware of the rules here? Why don't you queue up like everybody else? Asked Zhang Huanyun calmly. Tang Wulin's expression remained calm as before. Reporting as ordered, sir. I faced Senior Officer Long Yuxue in the competition just now. Something happened during the confrontation and I'm worried she may be injured in the Star Do battle network, so I came rushing over to check on her. Competition? You weren't here. So, how did you take part in the competition? You're from the Blood God Battalion. He just noticed the red rose on the Blood God bracelet on Tang Wulin's wrist. Yes, sir. I'm Tang Wulin, a supernumerary personnel of the Blood God Battalion. Zhang Huanyun spoke, very well. The Blood God Battalion only produces heroes and never rule breakers. You shall be punished like any ordinary soldier when you break the rules despite your status as a Blood God Battalion's fighter. Understand? Tang Wulin immediately answered, I refuse to obey. The surrounding people broke into an uproar at his words. Who was Zhang Huanyun? He was the newly appointed Blood God Army's regimental commander. He had spent 60 years in the Endless Mountains to reach his position as the regimental commander by being promoted one rank at a time from the beginning as a private soldier. He was peerless and his reputation in the entire Blood God Army could not even be rivaled by Blood One the Heartless Dolor, Cao Dashi. Tang Wulin was probably the first person in the past few decades who dared to speak to him in such a manner. Zhang Huanyun had a good laugh. Why do you refuse to obey the order? Tang Wulin shifted his gaze. I think your punishment may be discordant with the misdeed committed. Zhang Huanyun burst out laughing. Oh, I see, you think I'm not treating you fairly. Yes, said Tang Wulin. Zhang Huanyun spoke, as a soldier of the Federation and the Blood God Army's regimental commander, I do my best to be fair to every soldier under me. I'll never allow my personal feelings to affect my judgment. I've abided by this since the first day I joined the Blood God Army, and it has been 60 years and 163 days till today. That has never changed. However, Tang Wulin's lips twitched once. He won't be making an exception for me, right? I won't be making an exception for you. Besides, you're not under my command. Your punishment will be more severe in light of your offense in attacking a senior officer. Follow me. Zhang Huanyun waved his hand at Tang Wulin as he was speaking before he turned around and walked outside. Long Yuxue only managed to ask softly at present, what did you do? Tang Wulin spoke with a bitter smile, I was in a rush earlier and he blocked my path. So, I grabbed him and tossed him aside. Huh? Long Yuxue's knees buckled, and she almost sat on the ground. Even her father would address the man as uncle in private. However, Long Yuxue rolled her gorgeous eyes as she looked at Tang Wulin differently now as the result of a change in her feelings. He acted so impulsively because he was worried about my safety. Tang Wulin obediently followed behind Zhang Huanyun as they walked out from the rest area. Zhang Huanyun walked in long strides and with his head held high. Tang Wulin was not feeling perturbed, nor could he see any emotional change in Zhang Huanyun. His psyche had undergone training on the Demon Island, so he could calmly analyze any situation he faced instead of being overwhelmed with anxiety. What was the Blood God Army? It was the Federation's guardian angel. He had been the regimental commander of the army for decades and the Federation's general was a man of integrity and fortitude. Although Tang Wulin manhandled him earlier, he was certain that Zhang Huanyun could feel that he withheld his strength such that Zhang Huanyun would not be injured even if he had been a layperson. Besides, Tang Wulin did it under extenuating circumstances. How could Zhang Huanyun with his regimental commander's position bother with such an inconsequential person like Tang Wulin? Thus, Tang Wulin refused to obey so as to leave a profound impression on the regimental commander. A soldier ought to possess an unyielding spirit, right? Moreover, he did not think he did anything wrong. He jumped the queue not because he was impatient, but rather he was concerned for his comrade Dinan's condition. Long Yuxue was apparently not as calm as him. She followed closely by Tang Wulin's side. She was at a loss with what she should do now. Precisely because she had been living in the endless mountains all year long, she was even more aware of how prestigious Zhang Huanyun's position was in the army. Even the Blood God Battalion abided by Zhang Huanyun's orders. Zhang Huanyun walked straight into the operations headquarters while Tang Wulin and Long Yuxue followed closely behind almost as if they were his two bodyguards. Zhang Huanyun turned around with a sly smile on his face as he looked at the two youths entering the elevator. They look like a perfect couple. The boy is truly handsome and rivals my looks when I was young. Tang Wulin, where are you from? Zhang Huanyun had just returned, so he was not acquainted with this new recruit. Tang Wulin immediately replied, Shrek Academy. Zhang Huanyun's expression changed spontaneously upon hearing the words Shrek Academy. He frowned and spoke, you enlisted in the army after Shrek Academy was destroyed. Although there were thousands of people in the Blood God army, he could almost remember every one of them for he had spent decades in the army after all. He did not recognize the second lieutenant, Tang Wulin, so he must be a new recruit. It was not difficult for him to figure out Tang Wulin's second lieutenant promotion because there was a recent case of the Abyssal Tide. It was quite normal for Tang Wulin to be promoted so quickly. Yes, senior officer, said Tang Wulin loudly. Zhang Huanyun widened his eyes and heaved a sigh. Shrek. Tang Wulin could tell there was a heavy sense of pity in the man's eyes, unlike Blood 3 and Blood 5's deep sorrow. He knew that the regimental commander was not from Shrek Academy for sure. Zhang Huanyun said, so you're not here because the academy sent you, right? Tang Wulin answered, the Tang sect's respected Amoris Delor sent me to enlist in the Blood God army. Zhang Huanyun understood and said, so, it's him. No wonder you're allowed to enlist in the Blood God battalion. Reporting as ordered, senior officer. I relied on my own abilities to enlist in the Blood God battalion, said Tang Wulin loudly once again. Meanwhile, the elevator stopped with a ding. The door opened. Zhang Huanyun's lips cracked into a smile. Very confident of you. What a dynamic young man. Follow me then. He took the lead and walked out as he was saying that. Long Yuxue stood behind Tang Wulin with a vibrant expression on her face. Yuxue, can you stop pinching me, said Tang Wulin with a bitter smile. Long Yuxue had been pinching him behind his back the whole time he was talking to Zhang Huanyun. It felt painful. Long Yuxue spoke softly, you fool, how dare you speak to the regimental commander in this manner? My father doesn't even dare speak to him in such a manner. Tang Wulin was speechless. He knew Long Yuxue meant well, but he was equally aware that a soldier had to be more than modest at times. You don't understand. Tang Wulin shook his head helplessly. He then walked in long strides to catch up with Zhang Huanyun. Zhang Huanyun had the largest office Tang Wulin had ever seen in the army. However, it was not decorated lavishly. There were a few bookshelves, a table, and a few sofas for receiving visitors. Only essential decorations could be seen on the walls. Zhang Huanyun took a seat on his sofa while Tang Wulin stood on the opposite side. Young man, you're very confident of yourself. Please tell me then, which ability did you rely on to enlist in the Blood God battalion? Asked Zhang Huanyun smilingly. Tang Wulin answered, reporting as ordered, senior officer. My name is Tang Wulin and I'm Shrek Academy's inner court disciple. I'm one of the Shrek 7 monsters of this generation and also the squad leader of the Shrek 7 monsters. I'm a rank 59 Soul King. My associated weapon is the Golden Dragon Spear, which inherently suppresses the abyssal creatures and is capable of absorbing their abyssal energies for my use. Senior Blood 8 discovered me, and I was brought into the Blood God Battalion, where I became the Blood God Battalion's supernumerary personnel with Blood 1's approval. Blood 1 assigned me a mission which forbids me to enter the abyss anymore. There were 2 king-rank abyssal creatures which attacked me. Fortunately, I narrowly escaped and was saved by Blood 8. Zhang Huanyun was genuinely interested in Tang Wulin. He was an impressive young boy because he was capable of tossing out the off-guard Zhang Huanyun, which was something not any ordinary person could do. Being a man with a cultivation base close to a limit d'allure, Zhang Huanyun's body would react to any stimulus despite being unprepared. His stress reaction was not intense at the time because Tang Wulin did not hurt him intentionally. Even so, he could still complete the 1,000-ton fall naturally, so his opponent could not get at him anymore. He sensed a very powerful strength from Tang Wulin's body. At the same time, he also sensed a whiff of overbearingness. Of course, he could tell that Tang Wulin had a Soul King cultivation base by sight, but that left him even more astonished. If Tang Wulin was only a Soul King, then how did he acquire such incredible strength? This thoroughly confused Zhang Huanyun. The smile on Zhang Huanyun's face completely vanished after he had listened to Tang Wulin introduce himself. The leader of the current Shrek 7 monsters? The young boy is the most important seed left behind by Shrek Academy. No wonder the amorous Dolor sent him to my Blood God army. He was even more shocked when Tang Wulin described his ability to suppress abyssal creatures. He could absorb abyssal energy? Blood 1 had forbidden him from continuing to participate in the war, so it was clear that this capability had reached a significant level. Zhang Huanyun had dedicated his entire life to the Blood God army. He had deep feelings for the place and he spent his days fighting the abyssal creatures, so he understood how terrifying they were. He was well aware that the continent would be plunged into misery and suffering if those abyssal creatures were to break through the Blood God army's seal. Thus, his eyes instantly started glowing brightly when he listened to Tang Wulin talking about his ability to suppress abyssal creatures. He had not heard of this before. He had just returned, and the Blood God Battalion was relatively independent. Indeed, Blood 1 was on an equal level as he. He had yet to meet anyone from the Blood God Battalion ever since he came back, but he was immediately interested upon listening to Tang Wulin's words. "Take a seat, both of you." Zhang Huanyun waved his hand at both Tang Wulin and Long Yushue while he pressed a button on the Blood God bracelet on his wrist. His Blood God bracelet was different. It was blood red in color, but there was a golden line that circled around the center. This was the Blood God bracelet worn only by the regimental commander, while second-in-command and seniors wore bracelets with silver lines around them. "Blood 1, is this a good time? There's a boy named Tang Wulin here. Were you going to inform me of this?" He had quickly dialed the communicator. "You're back? I was just about to look for you to discuss that. Are you in the office?" The heartless Dolor's voice was heard. Come over then," said Zhang Huanyun. Tang Wulin was stunned for a moment as he had not expected that. He was only hoping to show himself in the best light before the regimental commander, but Zhang Huanyun ended up calling Blood 1. Tang Wulin could tell that the regimental commander's position was even higher than Blood 1 by the way they took the initiative to come see him. Blood 1 was the current sect master of the Tang sect, but there was no doubt that Zhang Huanyun was the person with the most authority in the Blood God army. For various reasons, Tang Wulin did not try to hold anything back and explained everything in detail. Firstly, it would not have been that difficult for Zhang Huanyun to find out about his identity. The other reason was that Tang Wulin hoped to receive his support in the future. This man was the Federation's general and the Blood God Army's regimental commander, so it would be undoubtedly much easier to rebuild Shrek Academy in the future with his backing. It did not take long before Blood 1 pushed open the door and entered. He saw Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin hastily stood up and saluted him, followed by Long Yushue. The young maiden was still feeling rather dazed at the moment. These 2 men before her were the most respected in the Blood God army, holding the highest positions. Blood 1 darted Tang Wulin a look before he took a seat next to Zhang Huanyun. The boy said that his ability could suppress abyssal creatures. To what extent? Zhang Huanyun asked Blood One. Blood One nonchalantly replied, "Take a look for yourself." As he spoke, he pressed a button on his blood god bracelet and projected a ray of light onto the white wall by his side. The scene displayed on the wall was Tang Wulin's performance during that battle against the abyssal tide. Zhang Huanyun watched somberly, with no emotion showing on his face. However, his expression changed ever so slightly when he witnessed the appearance of that gigantic finger and the King Mai later on. "Both of you shall leave now," said Zhang Huanyun to Tang Wulin and Long Yuxue. "Yes, senior officer." Tang Wulin stood up and looked at Blood One. Only after Blood One nodded at him did he leave, taking long strides. Long Yuxue followed hurriedly as they walked out of Zhang Huanyun's office. She could not refrain herself from asking as soon as they walked out from the room, "What's going on? What's with the charade? The Blood God Battalion allowed you to join in because they valued your Golden Dragon Spear's ability?" Tang Wulin nodded. "I guess you can say that." Long Yuxue frowned. "How can the regimental commander let you off so easily?" Tang Wulin felt speechless, so he said, "Girl, you don't seem to be well versed in reading people. Could it be that you think that the regimental commander would be fussing over a nothing second lieutenant like me? You think too much. He is only interested in me purely for my ability. However, there's no need for me to make an impression anymore. Let's go back to cultivation. I'm not well versed in reading people. Who was it that blasted my body into pieces in the competition? You had the nerve to do so after I'd been taking care of you so well when you enlisted in the army. HMMPH? My bad, sir. Why don't I treat you to a meal? I'm going to order from window number 1. 10 portions. But you can't eat so much, sir, said Tang Wulin with a bitter smile. I'll share with someone else if I can't finish it. I won't waste the food, don't worry. All right, all right. As you wish. Tang Wulin and Long Yuxue left, while Zhang Huanyun and Blood One leered at each other with consternation in the office. You're really a piece of work, Cao Dashi. You're very quick to betray others, huh? Zhang Huanyun glared at Blood One. Amorous Doluol spoke expressionless. How can you say that I betrayed you? Don't you forget that I'm the one that brought this child from the Tang sect? I don't care about that. He belongs to me after he officially enlisted in the Blood God Army. What difference does who sent him make? His Golden Dragon Spear's effect is related to our army's overall effort in resisting the Abyss. This is not a small matter. How could you just take him into the Blood God Battalion like this? I don't care. Return him to me. I'll assign him to a special position, so he can follow me and his safety will be ensured. Don't even think about it. Will I ever be able to take him back if he follows you? Blood One fired back without the slightest hesitation. Zhang Huanyun spoke, what's wrong with following me? Could it be that you don't know that I'm looking to groom a successor as I get older? Our Blood God Army is different from any other army. The regimental commander bears heavy responsibilities, so there must be a successor with adequate ability to take over my position. Moreover, anyone who is put forward by me to the army headquarters will certainly be approved. I haven't found anyone suitable to inherit my position. The boy is quite impressive and he's still young. Moreover, his ability can even suppress all sorts of creatures on the abyssal plane. Perhaps he could even contain the abyssal passage for centuries if he can be cultivated, then I can finally hand over my duties with ease. Blood One pouted. You must be dreaming. It's too good to be true. Not that I don't allow it, but even if I were to give him to you, he can't be your successor. Do you know what sort of responsibility this boy is carrying on his shoulders? Zhang Huanyun spoke, Shrek Academy, right? Of course I know that, but you must also know that many hands were involved in Shrek Academy's destruction. Alone, it's impossible to rebuild Shrek Academy no matter how outstanding he is. The Federation will never allow that. I don't know about the nasty schemes the Federation has put into place, but I can be sure that the Federation will never allow another independent authority to exist anymore. When even an institution as formidable as Shrek Academy was destroyed, could it be that you still think this 20-year-old young man can do something about it? Never mind the future, do you think he can support the process of rebuilding? It's impossible even with the complete support of the Tang sect. Blood One spoke indifferently. There has been no lack of miracles in this world. I also believe that there is a possibility that this child will bring something phenomenal. Let me ask you, if there comes a day when the Abyssal Passage issue can be completely resolved and there would be no need to worry about Abyssal Plane anymore, are you willing to support the revival of Shrek Academy? Zhang Huanyun looked distracted. Don't talk about such hypotheticals. Blood One continued, what if it truly happens? Zhang Huanyun replied, even so, we'd need accurate information about the situation and detailed analysis. If he's the one who'd accomplish such a great feat, then I wouldn't even have a problem handing over the entire Blood God army to him. After all, the Blood God army exists to take care of the Abyssal Passage. If there were no more threats from the Abyssal Plane, then the Blood God army would lose its purpose. What happens in the future is none of my business. I could also take some time to relax if I should live that long, that is. Blood One nodded. That would be all it takes. Zhang Huanyun could not help but ask, you really think that this young man can turn the tide between the Abyssal Plane's energy and us? Blood One smiled faintly. Why not? At least there's a chance. His golden dragon spear is much more effective than you think. Not only is his cultivation base strong, but his bloodline ability is also even more formidable. He was able to become the leader of the Shrek 7 monsters, so his abilities can't be dismissed. He's also a Saint Craftsman ranked blacksmith. He's the youngest Saint Craftsman in the history of blacksmithing. I don't think you know that yet. Are you serious? This time, Zhang Huanyun was truly shocked. There was not even a single Saint Craftsman in the entire Blood God army. Blood One shrugged. If it wasn't for Long Qianwu's orders which forbade him from using his merits earned from blacksmithing to raise his ranks, I think that he'd be able to become a major general in less than a year. Do you believe that? Zhang Huanyun appeared to be pondering. What about your plan? Blood One replied, before he's powerful enough, we must first keep him hidden. The Abyssal Plane has already noticed the effects of his golden dragon spear. The My Empress even joined the attack herself. If we allow him to continue fighting and the Abyssal Plane was willing to pay any price, it would be highly difficult for us to stop them even if we wanted to. I've sent him to enter the Federal Star Do Battle Network Challenge so that he can train in it for some time. When his strength has reached the point where he can take the task on solo, that'll be the time when we'll wage an all-out war against the Abyssal Plane. I'd very much like to see what'll happen when he sticks his golden dragon spear into the bodies of the 108 Abyssal Monarchs. The 108 Abyssal Monarchs are basically the 108 fulcrums of the Abyssal Plane. I'm not sure how many we'd have to break before the Abyssal Plane will crumble or break away from their connection with our world, but I can be sure that as long as some of the 108 Abyssal Monarchs die, the Abyssal Plane will think twice before they ever attempt to invade us again. The greatest problem we face now is that we aren't able to truly wear them down. Otherwise, why would we be so hard-pressed after fighting them for thousands of years, with generation after generation of Blood God army soldiers? Zhang Huanyun's eyes flickered. I see what you're saying. You're hoping that this young man can use his weapon to completely kill the 108 Abyssal Monarchs, attempt to destroy a few of the 108 Abyssal layers, and cut the Abyssal Passage off. That's right. Blood One nodded solemnly. Zhang Huanyun took a deep breath. All right, this plan sounds good. You have my unconditional support. Tell me if you need anything. If the day truly comes where we no longer have the need to guard this place, the Blood God army will stand with Shrek and the Tang sect. In the army, everything has to be traded with merits, and no merit is greater than completely resolving the problem of the Abyssal Plane. If that time comes, even if you make the Blood God army your personal fighting force, I won't have any qualms. All these years, even after the Tang sect's headquarters was destroyed, you didn't go back. I'll remember this sentiment of yours. The heartless Doluo said with a smile, let's not talk about these things. Our objectives are the same. Haven't you also spent 60 years here? We're working tirelessly toward a single goal. At least, we've seen the first ray of hope in 6,000 years, haven't we? The two real leaders of Blood God Army looked at each other and smiled. Words were not necessary to convey what they felt. Naturally, Tang Wulin did not know that these two had reached an agreement, nor was he aware how important he was in their hearts. After he had treated Long Yushue to a meal, he returned to his dorm and continued to cultivate stoically. His fight with Long Yushue that day had paid great dividends. He had actually enhanced his martial soul with his bloodline power for the very first time. For him, this had enormous implications. It had made his overall strength increase by a great leap. He grasped his golden dragon spear and meditated as he sat cross-legged. He silently felt the support of his dragon core within his soul power. His soul power vortex now had a golden tinge, showing a close connection to his dragon core. Tang Wulin could even vaguely feel that some of his dragon core's aura had settled within his soul power vortex. With this combination, it should be much easier for him to enhance his martial soul with his bloodline power next time. This meditation session had taken him longer than usual. Tang Wulin connected some of the thoughts in his mind. At the same time, he considered his skill, the 1,000 accusing fingers. As expected, actual combat was the best way to improve oneself. With the merging of his soul power and bloodline power, he was more confident of facing the upcoming matches in the competition. Old Tang had said that he needed to use his own abilities to create the final 3 moves of the Golden Dragon 9 moves. After his bloodline power had enhanced his martial soul, he started having some ideas. He definitely needed more time to put his thoughts in order, but at least it was a good start. A faint light flickered. Tang Wulin slowly emerged from his state of meditation. He carefully opened his eyes and everything around him appeared clearer. Although there was no noticeable improvement in his cultivation base, he felt as if he was reborn. He exerted force subconsciously, and every one of his muscles tensed up instantly. His dragon core was at the center of his body, and it shone with a dazzling golden light. His soul power vortex was quickly colored by a faint layer of gold. The two of them were always in a state where they could merge. However, it was a pity that his soul power cultivation base and bloodline cultivation base were not yet at the same rank. Once his soul core was formed, Tang Wulin believed that the merging of these two cores would definitely produce a powerful reaction. He looked forward to that day's arrival. At least, by the looks of things currently, it was not too far off. Maybe, when he broke through rank 60 soul power and became a soul emperor, his soul core would be successfully condensed. He still had an ace up his sleeve. When the time came, he would directly merge his 100,000-year soul ring with Damask Tulip. Although he intended to turn Damask Tulip into his spirit soul and not his soul ring since it would not increase his soul power very much, he felt that there was no way that his soul core would not successfully merge with it with the addition of his 100,000-year soul ring. That was why, on the surface, Tang Wulin's cultivation base did not seem to have increased by much, but he had obtained his dragon core in the short month since he had come to the Blood God Army. If he could obtain his soul core and make this interconnected enhancement work, it could definitely raise his power by a few ranks. If he were to achieve that, even Tang Wulin himself would not be able to judge what level his combat strength would reach. A faint smile appeared on Tang Wulin's face, and he got up to his feet. He was shocked when he saw the time. It was already the time for the second day's match. He had initially been planning to have a meal. He quickly entered the Star Doe cabin and connected to the battle network. Once again, it was the time for a mecha battle that day. Tang Wulin went straight to the competition grounds and entered right away. Selection, Melee Mecha. Weapon, Spear. Tang Wulin had entered the mecha competition to train his own long-range attacking abilities. However, after he started training with the spear, there had been a change of plans. Before he completed the move 1,000 Accusing Fingers, he was intending to compete with a spear. Tang Wulin entered the competition stage. A shadow flashed on the opposite side and a mecha appeared. This time, it was no longer a long-range but a close combat mecha. The opponent's weapon was a saber with a long curved blade. The saber was slightly longer than the spear in Tang Wulin's hand. The saber's blade was over 6 meters long and 2 meters wide. It was thick and heavy, looking all-powerful and impressive. 3, 2, 1, begin. The crude, electronic voice announced Tang Wulin's second mecha battle in the competition. Both of them dashed toward each other without the slightest hesitation. It was simple and straightforward as the two close combat mechas approached each other rapidly. When one close combat mecha fought another in a battle, the winner would be whoever had the stronger fighting skills and better soul skills in reinforcing one's mecha. Generally, a soul master's cultivation base must be strong in order to amplify the mecha's soul skill in close combat. It would be very difficult for a soul master below a 3-ring cultivation base to fight in a mecha battle using his or her martial soul. The power would be too weak to damage the opponent's protective shield. Any mecha master would consider whether his or her martial soul was compatible with their chosen mecha. Mecha masters could only exert their most powerful influence when their martial souls were fully compatible to their mechas in a mecha battle. The opponent's mecha raised the long saber in its hand and slashed down swiftly at Tang Wulin. The saber burst forth with lightning speed despite being so large and heavy. It took only a moment before it was upon Tang Wulin's mecha. The saber was so swift. Tang Wulin squinted as his hand slid over the control panel swiftly. The spear in the mecha's hand blocked the attack with an upward motion. The opponent had the upper hand and refused to budge. The saber's tip bounced off to reveal the hilt. The opponent then relied on its power to push the blade straight at Tang Wulin's operations cap. What a ferocious move! Tang Wulin slid his mecha backward. At the same time, the propeller on the opponent's back was illuminated. The saber's blade was almost upon Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin blocked with his spear once again in an upward motion, as he attempted to look for a break in his opponent's defense. The opposing combatant had unleashed its propeller only for a moment, turning it off before it charged forward. Tang Wulin's attempt to block failed while his opponent capitalized on the opportunity to sweep the long saber horizontally at the waist of Tang Wulin's close combat mecha. Tang Wulin could tell that the mecha master was experienced in operating a close combat mecha in actual combat. On the other hand, he was not as skillful in operating a mecha and was at a slight disadvantage. However, he remained calm. He did not panic even when confronted with danger. There was hardly time for him to retract the spear, but his feet movements did not slow down. On the contrary, he charged at his opponent. The propeller on his opponent's back glowed brightly and its speed increased exponentially. Meanwhile, he raised his spear and held it upright. He was about to use it as a long rod to smash the opponent's mecha. The opposite mecha continued moving horizontally with its long saber slicing ruthlessly in front. At the same time, the hilt was strenuously pulled back. Tang Wulin's mecha appeared to be charging straight toward the saber's tip. Not only that, a fiery radiance burst forth abruptly from the opponent's mecha. The saber's radiance glowed with a bitter coldness and an overbearing aura. The opponent's mecha squatted to evade Tang Wulin's attack while its soul skill was unleashed to perfection. The opponent would not allow himself to be caught at a disadvantage before he used his soul skill. The rumor that whoever unleashed one's martial soul first would end up in a compromised position turned out to be absurd when one was confronted by a person who was truly skilled in actual combat. The opponent's soul skill burst forth with perfect timing. It put Tang Wulin, who was unleashing his propeller, into a desperate situation. Tang Wulin watched helplessly as there was no way to dodge. He controlled his close combat mecha into making a very odd movement. Suddenly, the mecha swayed once and changed its direction with its propeller turned on at full force. It did not move sideways but upward. The mecha would need to withstand the extremely powerful turning forces when it changed directions with its propeller running at top speed. The mecha master would face the same situation as well. A person without an extremely strong physique would not be able to withstand the maneuver. Naturally, it would not be an issue for Tang Wulin. However, his mecha was only a regular standard model, so it would not be able to withstand the forces. Nonetheless, he figured out a way. He unleashed the soul power from his body, which then seeped into every joint of the mecha to stabilize the mecha's structure instantly. The mecha had not unleashed its protective shield, but there was an additional layer of misty white radiance on its surface. It was precisely Tang Wulin's mysterious heaven method soul power. The saber's radiance almost sliced across the area underneath his feet, while the spear in his hand, which was lashing downward, was at the optimum position for a stab. The spear's tip was glowing with a layer of misty white radiance. It pierced directly into the area above the head of the opponent's mecha. Everything happened in a flash, from the moment when the opponent unleashed his fiery soul skill with its saber's shimmering radiance to the moment Tang Huanyun diverted his mecha. The opposing mecha that was squatting initially suddenly leaped up and scurried diagonally in the air to evade Tang Huanyun's spear attack. At the same time, the long saber in its hand waved backward to stab at Tang Huanyun. Tang Huanyun lifted his spear, and the two weapons clashed once again. Bang! This time, they were equally matched. Both mechas were blasted away in opposite directions simultaneously. They landed with two loud clangs, bang, bang. The two drivers' expressions were solemn when they confronted each other once again. Both of them were equally aware that they were confronting a master fighter. It was Tang Huanyun's first experience in fighting against an opponent with such fluid control over the mecha. The opponent's control of his long saber seemed as easy as the palm directing its fingers. It was as if the mecha was part of the opponent's body. Furthermore, his long saber was wielded at an unusually swift speed which was apparently influenced by his soul power. However, Tang Huanyun's will to fight grew stronger the more he dealt with such an opponent. Hence, he did not use his martial soul and bloodline power but relied solely on the amplification of his soul power. He wished to improve his spear technique, so he was not in a rush to defeat the opponent. Tang Huanyun's mecha suddenly took a step forward while his spear pierced out valiantly. He acted differently this time with his spirit and energy united. His soul power flowed into the mecha. It was as if his body and the mecha were fused as one. The opponent chose to wield his saber to counteract Tang Huanyun's spear which had suddenly moved faster. The saber's hilt was tilted slightly. Bang! The spear's consciousness bloomed during the collision. The opponent's mecha was shaken till it fell back half a step. Nevertheless, its long saber was jabbing away toward Tang Huanyun. The opponent took advantage of the weapon's length. A radiance flashed once in Tang Huanyun's eyes. He retracted the spear in a horizontal motion to push away the saber. Both of them were fighting furiously with their respective saber and spear at close range. Neither of them unleashed their soul skills, while the two mechas continuously struck at one another with their weapons. The close combat of mechas involved both attack and defense in a bold, unrestrained manner. The application of skills was limited, yet the mecha battle was especially intense. Tang Huanyun soon threw himself into the battle. The feeling of one with the mecha allowed him to execute some actual combat techniques during the battle after he had infused his soul power into the mecha. With his control of the mecha, it began to move with more agility. On the other hand, the opponent's fighting capacity had increased as well. His mecha was controlled to perfection. The long saber had a wide, sweeping arc. It moved up and down, left and right without conceding any opening to Tang Huanyun. At the moment, both sides were equally matched in the battle. No one had the upper hand. Tang Huanyun was certain the opponent was a mecha master from the Blood God army. Most likely, he had at least a 5-ring cultivation base. Otherwise, it would not be so difficult to deal with him. Both parties were not fighting with their skills as neither of them was willing to use their soul skills to defeat their opponent. The battle was supposed to be their training ground. Tang Huanyun was unaware that the Star Do battle network zone in the army's rest area had broken into an uproar at present. Who is that? His close combat skill is unexpectedly superb. Since when is there a close combat master in our West Division? Even the 3rd Battalion commander can't take him down. It's truly satisfying to watch this. A large screen was placed in the Star Do battle network zone which projected all the ongoing battles in the 30 Star Do cabins for the soldiers, who were waiting for their turns, to watch. At present, the screen was displaying the battle between Tang Huanyun and his opponent. Both parties fought courageously as the battle progressed. They were locked in a struggle with their saber and spear crossing each other. It was a rare opportunity to witness such a battle, and it was absolutely the most exciting competition from the West Division ever since the mecha battle began. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.